I'm not the type to share stories online. I've worked night shifts for years, warehouses, parking lots, you name it. Nothing ever spooked me before. But what happened on that construction site in December still wakes me up in a cold sweat. I wish I could forget it. I wish I hadn't seen what I saw. It was an unfinished apartment complex, 5 floors, concrete shell, scaffolding clinging to the sides like ribs. They hired me to keep watch overnight, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., mostly to keep out vandals or dumb teenagers trying to explore. No electricity, no cameras. Just a walkie, a flashlight, and a little folding chair in a makeshift booth. The first few nights were quiet, cold, boring. I'd walk the perimeter every hour, shine the flashlight inside just to be sure no one slipped through. The gate was padlocked from the inside. No way in or out unless I opened it. But by the 4th night, things got weird. I was doing my usual walk around. The moon was out, full and high, casting enough light to see the outline of the building without even turning on my flashlight. I just checked the back corner, nothing there. As I was walking back toward the booth, I heard it. Footsteps. Inside the building. Slow. Measured. Crunching gravel and broken drywall. I froze. Listen. Then I heard a voice. Low, muttering something I couldn't make out. Then a second voice. Then a laugh. The kind of laugh you don't forget, dry, almost breathless, like someone laughing who hadn't used their lungs in a long time. I swear to God, every hair on my body stood up. I ran to the entrance. Still padlocked from the inside. No gaps. No signs of anyone getting in. I turned the flashlight on and shined it through the opening. Nothing. But the voices kept going. Not loud, just constant. Like someone having a conversation deeper inside. I couldn't make out words. Just that awful murmur and that strange laugh again, echoing through empty concrete. I didn't go in that night. I told myself maybe it was sound carrying from somewhere else. Maybe someone left a radio behind. Maybe it was the wind, stupid excuses, but I needed sleep. The next night, I brought a thermos of coffee, more out of nerves than anything. I also brought a crowbar just in case. Again, everything was quiet until about 2 a.m. Then the sound started. This time, footsteps coming down the stairs. Heavy, dragging footsteps. Like someone with one bad leg. I stood at the entrance, heart pounding, flashlight aimed straight ahead. I called out, "Who's there? This is private property." The footsteps stopped. For a second, nothing. Then I saw it. Just for a second. A figure. Standing behind the unfinished second floor railing. Just a silhouette, no details, but it looked like someone tall, thin, just standing there looking down at me. I stepped back. I must have blinked, or maybe the clouds moved, but when I looked again, gone. I opened the gate and went inside. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess part of me wanted it to be a prank, something I could explain. But the deeper I went in, the colder it got. Not just temperature, a different kind of cold. The kind that sinks into your stomach. On the 3rd floor I found footprints. Bare feet. In dust and bits of plaster. Only one set. No shoes. No other signs of life. That was the last night I worked there. I quit the next day. The manager didn't even seem surprised. Just nodded like he'd heard it before. He didn't ask questions. I don't care if anyone believes me. I know what I saw. And I still hear that laugh in my dreams, sometimes dry, cracked, close to my ear. If you ever take a job watching a half-built place at night, don't. Some buildings aren't empty. Not really. I didn't sleep much after I quit. Even after I left that site, it stuck with me like dust I couldn't shake out of my clothes. That building, half-finished and rotting from the inside, it kept showing up in my thoughts when the world got quiet. Like it was still watching me. For a week I stayed home. Didn't take any calls, didn't check in with the agency. I told myself it was burnout. Night shift fatigue. Just stress playing tricks on my mind. But even in my own apartment, 3rd floor walk up in a crumbling brick building across from a muffler shop, I felt like I was never really alone. I'd get that same feeling like something was just out of sight, behind a door or standing in the corner of the room, waiting for me to notice. Sometimes I'd wake up at exactly 2:17 a.m. Every night. No dreams, no sounds. Just a jolt like something had touched me. I'd sit up, breathing hard, the sweat already drying on my back, and for a moment, I'd be sure that I wasn't in my bedroom anymore. The shape of the window would seem wrong. The shadows on the ceiling too long, stretching across the room like scaffolding ribs. Sometimes I'd reach for the light switch and hesitate, afraid that when the bulb flickered on, I'd see bare footprints in the dust on my floor. I kept telling myself it was all in my head. But on the 8th night I broke. It was cold again. December chill hanging in the air, bitter and wet like steel left out in the rain. I tried to sleep, tossed around for hours, until finally I threw on my coat and went out. I needed to get away from the 4 walls pressing in. Maybe I just needed to stand under the sky. I walked. Didn't know where I was going until I was already halfway there. That building. The construction site. It wasn't even on my usual route. But my feet knew the way before I did. By the time I got close, it was past 3 a.m. The streets were dead quiet, just the occasional rustle of wind and the buzz of a lonely street lamp overhead. And there it was looming up between bare trees and chain-link fencing. The unfinished complex. Concrete bones against a sky full of dull orange haze from the city's glow. I stopped across the street. The gate was still chained shut, padlocked. No lights, no movement. But something had changed. In the upper window second floor, right side, I saw a flicker of orange. Not a reflection. A glow. Like firelight. I stood there for a long time, not moving, breath fogging in the cold. It didn't move like a flame. It pulsed. Dim. Then came back stronger. Then vanished completely, just gone. And then, from somewhere deep inside the structure. A sound. Not footsteps this time. Not voices. Knocking. 3 slow knocks. Deliberate. From somewhere inside the concrete husk. Like someone hitting their knuckles against a door that wasn't there. I took a step back without meaning to. My stomach clenched, legs tensed to run. But I didn't. Because I saw something. A shape. Just inside the frame of the open stairwell, a silhouette, tall, still, watching. No face. No features. Just that same presence I remembered from before. That same impossible stillness, like the air itself wrapped around it to avoid touching. And then it moved. Not walked, shifted, like a cut in the film, like time jumped for a second and suddenly it was at the next landing, closer to the exit. I didn't wait for it to move again. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. Not once. I don't know what I expected. Maybe that I'd go back and the place would be just empty concrete again. That it wouldn't look back. But I think I woke something up when I quit. Or maybe I saw something I was never supposed to see. Something that doesn't stay behind locked gates and construction permits. Something that follows. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like this story. After that night, I stopped going out after dark. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. Not because I was worried they wouldn't believe me, but because I didn't know how to say it. I didn't have the words to describe what I'd seen because it wasn't just what was there, it was what it did to the world around it. Everything felt wrong now. Off-center. Like the city had slipped just a few inches out of alignment. Like reality was tilted slightly and I was the only one walking at an angle. I covered the windows in my apartment. First the curtains, then thick blankets nailed into the plaster. I kept the lights on through the night and started sleeping with the TV playing low, usually some static-ridden shopping channel or old black and white reruns. I couldn't handle silence anymore. Silence was when the knocking started again, only this time, not at the construction site. It was coming from inside my building. First night, it was faint somewhere far below, like maybe someone in the basement was messing with pipes. I ignored it. Second night, it was louder. 3 knocks again. Always 3. Measured, steady. This time I could feel it. Not just in my ears. In the floorboards, in the air between my ribs. By the 4th night, I could tell exactly where it was coming from. Apartment 2B. The one directly beneath mine. That place had been empty for months. The guy who lived there before, Frank, I think his name was, moved out sometime back in the fall. Said he was going to stay with his sister after he got sick. Never came back. Landlord said he was still paying rent, so they left the place alone. But I started hearing movement down there. Footsteps. Slow, uneven ones, pacing from wall to wall, then stopping. Then starting again. I called the super. Told him I thought maybe someone had broken in. He said he'd check it out in the morning. I asked him if he could check. Right then it was 2:30 in the morning. I knew that, but I was desperate. He just said, "Don't worry about it. Old pipes make strange noises. Old pipes don't laugh." Not like that. It was that same sound again, the dry, empty chuckle that caught in the throat like dust. I heard it through the vent under my bathroom sink. Just for a second. Just long enough to make my skin go cold. I started sleeping during the day. Or trying to. At least then I could pretend I was just tired, just imagining things. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure again. Standing behind the railing. Watching. Waiting. And then I found the footprints. I'd spilled flour on the kitchen tiles by accident. I was half asleep and knocked the container off the counter. Didn't bother sweeping it up right away. In the morning I saw them. Bare footprints. Long, thin. The kind where you can see every toe, every crease. Like someone had been standing there. Just standing in the middle of my kitchen in the middle of the night. No other tracks. No smudges from coming in or going out. Just a perfect pair of prints in the flour, facing the hallway. Facing me. I lost it. Grabbed every lock I could find from the hardware store, bar locks, sliding bolts, even a door brace. Installed them all. Started taping newspaper over the keyhole and wedging a chair beneath the knob before bed. And still, at exactly 2:17 every night, 3 knocks. Always from below. Always from the floor. One night, I lay flat on the boards and pressed my ear to the ground, held my breath. What I heard wasn't knocking. Not really. It was nails. Fingers. Dragging slowly along the underside of the floor. Scratching their way toward the walls. I stopped calling the super. There was no point. Either he didn't believe me or he already knew and I wasn't sure which was worse. Every time I brought it up, I'd get the same shrug in his voice, the same lazy assurances that pipes make weird noises, or, these old buildings settle funny at night. But buildings don't breathe. That's what it sounded like sometimes. When the apartment got very quiet, TV off, fan off, no traffic outside, I could hear it under the floorboards. A slow, long inhalation, the creaking and stretching of wood that seemed to move with something unseen. Then silence. Then a low exhale. Like the building was alive. Like something beneath me was trying to match my breathing, waiting for me to fall asleep. I started pacing the apartment at night. Just walking from one room to the next, turning lights on and off, checking locks, listening at the walls. I'd lean close to the vents, holding my breath, waiting for the faintest sound because it was always there if I listened long enough. That whisper. Sometimes I'd hear my name. Not loud. Not shouted. It would come like a memory, like someone behind me had said it 5 minutes ago and I was only just hearing the echo now. Just above a whisper. Matthew. That's my name. I didn't tell you before. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping if I didn't say it, this thing wouldn't know it. But it does. By the 10th night, I had blocked every vent in the apartment. Taped over them with plastic and duct tape, stuffed towels beneath the bathroom door. Still the sounds came through. Still the knocks at 2:17. But something else changed that night. Something small. Almost forgettable if not for how wrong it felt. I'd unplugged everything earlier that day. Not just turned it off, unplugged. I needed to know the TV wouldn't suddenly come on, that the lights wouldn't flicker, that nothing electronic could make a sound while I tried to sleep. And yet just after 2:17 my radio turned on. I don't even remember owning that radio. One of those old clunky ones with the red digital numbers and the soft glow of a backlight. I think it belonged to the guy who had this apartment before me. Or maybe I bought it at a thrift store years ago and never used it. It had been sitting on top of the bookshelf in the hallway, gathering dust. It turned on without sound. No music, no static, just the display lighting up. Bright red. 2:17 a.m. The exact time. Then, without any input, the tuner began to scroll. Click, click, click. Each shift of the dial made a mechanical snapping sound. Slow and methodical, like a safe being cracked open one number at a time. I just stood there and watched. My hands shaking. My legs rooted to the floor. I wanted to turn it off, to rip it from the wall, but I hadn't plugged it in. I checked. I swear to you it wasn't plugged in. The radio kept scrolling. Click, click, then static. And underneath the static, something that made my stomach turn cold. It was the sound of footsteps. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. Dragging feet. Slow. Closer. Then a breath. Then the voice. That same whisper from the vent, but clearer this time. Like it was right next to the mic. Downstairs. I grabbed the radio, yanked the batteries out. There were none. The compartment was empty. I hurled the thing against the wall. It didn't even break. Just bounced off and landed on the floor, still humming faintly with that whisper buried in the static until the sound just faded out. I sat on the couch until sunrise. Didn't sleep. Couldn't. And in the quiet hours before dawn, when the orange haze started to glow through the slit in my window coverings, I made a decision. I had to go down to apartment 2B. I wasn't ready. I knew that. But I also knew this thing, whatever it was, wasn't going to stop. Not until I looked it in the face. Not until I let it in. Or fought it. Or whatever it wanted from me. Tomorrow. That's what I told myself. One more day. One more night. Tomorrow I'd go downstairs. But tonight I'd wait. Just one more night. One more night. The hallway outside my apartment had never felt quite so long. I stood in front of my door for 10 minutes before opening it. Just listening. The silence felt thick, like air underwater. It clung to the walls, wrapped around the dim light bulbs overhead, settled on my shoulders like a second skin. I gripped the flashlight in one hand and the spare master key the super had given me back when I was still trustworthy. I hadn't used it in over a year. It felt small in my fingers now. Cold. I shut my door behind me and turned the bolt, not out of habit, but because I didn't want anything waiting for me inside when I came back. if I came back. The hallway smelled like old carpet and copper. A faint trace of mildew under it all, like a flooded basement after the water drains. Every door was closed, every apartment silent. The lights flickered above me, not violently, just enough to give the illusion of motion in the shadows. Just enough to feel watched. I descended the stairs slow, one step at a time. No creaks, no echo. Just the sound of my own breathing. I don't know why it felt wrong after all. I'd walked these steps hundreds of times, but that night they didn't feel like mine. The door to 2B looked the same as always. Off-white, scuffed near the bottom. The number plate still crooked from the time someone slammed it too hard during a domestic fight 2 tenants ago. But it felt like it had been waiting for me. Like it knew. I slid the key in. I hesitated. My hand was shaking, but not from fear, not exactly. It was more like the body's natural response to proximity. Like something ancient in my blood knew what waited on the other side of that door, and it was trying to warn me, turn back. Go upstairs. Burn the key. But I turned the lock. It clicked open with a soft snap. And then I waited. Listen. Nothing. No footsteps. No whisper. No knocking. Just that silence again. And behind it, breathing. I pushed the door open slowly. The smell hit me first. Not rotting food or trash, this was older. Dry. Stale, like a long-abandoned attic with no air. But under that was something sharp, chemical. Not bleach. Not paint. Like ash. I stepped inside. Everything was covered in dust. Thick layers of it on the floor, the shelves, the countertops. The kind that doesn't settle over months but over years. The kind that should have been impossible in an apartment that was supposedly rented and paid for monthly. I swept the flashlight across the room. Furniture was still there. A couch against the wall, sunken in the middle. An armchair with the stuffing poking through the seams. A table with a newspaper on it dated 2 years ago. The air was still, unmoving, like the entire apartment had been sealed shut since long before I moved into the building. But the floor told a different story. Footprints. Not many. Just 2 sets. One leading into the apartment. One leading deeper toward the bedroom at the far end of the hall. The prints were clear even in the dust. Bare. Long toes spread like claws. I followed them. Slowly. Carefully. Every step sending up tiny swirls of dust in the beam of my flashlight. The walls here were marked just faintly. Scratches like something had been dragged across them. Something metallic. A nail? A hook? The gouges weren't deep, but they were deliberate. Long, arcing scratches that formed no pattern, just tension. When I reached the bedroom door, I stopped. It was closed. Unlike the rest of the apartment, the dust here had been disturbed completely. The floor in front of the door was clean. Like someone or something had passed through often. Or was still doing so. I reached for the handle. It turned without resistance. But I didn't open the door. Not yet. Because I could hear something now. Not movement. Not breathing. A voice. Mine. Coming from the other side. Soft. Whispering something I couldn't quite catch. Something rhythmic. Like a chant. My own voice repeating itself again and again. And underneath it faintly another voice. Mocking it. Repeating every word a second late like a shadow. I stepped back. My foot hit something. I turned, flashlight shaking, and saw an old photo frame lying face down on the floor just beside the hallway radiator. I picked it up. Wiped the dust from the glass. The photo was faded, warped by time, but I could still make it out. It was a group shot. 4 men, all wearing construction gear. Helmets, orange vests, gloves. Standing in front of the very same building I used to watch at night. Smiling. 3 of the men were strangers. But the fourth was me. I dropped the frame. It hit the floor with a sound too heavy for wood and glass. Behind me, the bedroom door creaked open on its own. The door creaked open just a few inches. Enough to reveal the darkness inside, thick and unmoving like it had weight. My own voice was still whispering from within, now louder, clearer. "You never left, Matthew?" I stepped closer. The flashlight flickered. Inside, the room was empty. No furniture. No bed. Just 4 sets of boot prints in the dust, forming a perfect square on the floor. And in the center of them, a 5th pair. Barefoot. Facing the door. The flashlight died. And in that instant of darkness, I saw them all. The 4 construction workers, pale and expressionless, standing in the corners of the room, eyes hollow, staring straight through me. And then I saw me, not my reflection, not a memory. Me standing in the center. But not moving. Not blinking. Just grinning, the same dead smile as the others. The door slammed shut behind me. And the last thing I heard, before everything went black, was my own voice whispering from the walls. You were always down here. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like this story.